Good evening, Garage Gang. It's Thursday night in the Bay. The concrete's humming, the screens are glowing, and the entire global financial system looks like a race car already sideways before it even leaves pit lane. You didn't end up here by accident. You're here because you can feel it. Something's wrong in the plumbing. Something's off in the pipes. And the suits on TV keep saying everything's fine, in that voice you only use when the house is already on fire. In this garage, we don't do "it's fine." We do truth. We do alpha. We do outlaw clarity in a system built to confuse you. Before I roll into what actually happened today, do me one favor and do it like you're part of this crew. Smash that like, hit that follow, share this with your fellow crypto degenerates, and especially that one guy at work who's crypto curious but still scared to download a wallet. Because in this garage, we break it down so everybody gets it. From the coder to the carpenter to the man trying to turn $50 into a future. Tonight's episode, this isn't Thursday vibes. This is the scene in the movie where the music cuts, the camera pulls back, and you finally see the size of the casino you've been gambling in. The tables, the pits, the dealers, the sharks, and the exit door that somehow always feels too far away. This is the moment you realize you weren't just playing the game, you were the game. And tonight, the house changed the rules. Let me tell you what actually happened.
The Fed's RRP, reverse repo facility, is basically empty. For the garage, the RRP is like the Fed's overflow parking lot for extra cash. When it's empty, there's no cushion left in the system. They drained it down to around $7.56 billion, down from trillions. When QT hits now, it hits bank reserves directly. At the same time, Treasury stuffed nearly $1 trillion into the TGA, Treasury General Account. For the garage, the TGA is the government's checking account at the Fed. When the balance goes up, money gets pulled out of the economy. It tightens everything: credit, liquidity, confidence. So right now, RRP empty, no safety net. TGA stuffed, money pulled out of circulation. That's why markets feel tight and fragile, because they are. Global pressure: Japan, China, and the dollar. Japan's central bank, the BOJ, Bank of Japan, is the silent margin call waiting to happen. Their bonds, JGBs, Japanese government bonds, keep rising in yield. For the garage, when Japan raises rates or JGB yields spike, giant global trading strategies unwind fast. Think margin call from across the ocean. China's central bank, the PBOC, People's Bank of China, is slowly pumping money into their system through things like the MLF and OMO. MLF, medium-term lending facility. China gives banks medium-length loans to stabilize credit. OMO, open market operations. China injects or removes money from the system. Think adjusting water pressure in the pipes. Meanwhile, U.S. yields sit around 4.1%, and the DXY, U.S. dollar index, is weakening around 99. For the garage, when the dollar drops, Bitcoin and hard assets usually get room to run. But under the hood, breadth is trash. Only about 53% of the S&P is above its 50-day average. The VIX, Fear Index, is asleep around 16. The MOVE Index, the bond market's Fear Index, is screaming in the high 60s. Garage translation: stocks think we're in a rom-com. Bonds think we're in a horror movie.
Both can't be right. Both can't be right. Crypto, coiled spring energy. Bitcoin is sitting on record open interest, about $29 billion with neutral funding. Garage translation: a ton of money is betting on Bitcoin in futures contracts, but no one's paying extra for long or short positions. That means big players are positioning quietly. This is the calm before a move. BTC ETF flows cooled off. Small outflows, but exchange reserves are dropping, and whales are pulling coins off exchanges. That's accumulation. not fear. Stablecoins, nearly $1 billion, just moved into Tron in 24 hours. That's dry powder. That's ammo. That's I'm here, waiting to strike energy. Now the spicy one. XRP is the contradiction king tonight. On one side, 824 million in ETF inflows in 13 days. Huge. 300 plus banks using Ripple's rails. ODL, on-demand liquidity, moving $1.3 trillion every quarter. ODL is XRP's system for instant global payments without pre-funded accounts. RLUSD stablecoin starting new corridors. 2,700 whale wallets holding 1 million plus XRP, all-time highs. That's a rail giant. But the other side, 3.3 billion XRP just moved back onto exchanges in 48 hours. Long-term holders, measured by NUPL, net unrealized profit loss, are in classic profit-taking territory. XRPL on-chain DeFi, TVL, total value locked, $85 million. DEX volume, 277K day. Garage translation, rails are massive. On-chain usage is tiny. Whales are hoarding. Early whales are cashing out. Powerful long-term story. Messy short-term plumbing. Not a clean squeeze, a knife fight. All right, Garage, here's the real shape of the market tonight. No jargon, no charts, just the truth. The number one force driving everything right now is liquidity. We've got the Federal Reserve's cash buffer basically empty, and the US Treasury sitting on almost $1 trillion in its account at the Fed. Money pulled out of the system instead of flowing through it. When those two things happen at the same time, the whole market gets tight, twitchy, and fragile. Next, we've got the rates and dollar setup. The 10-year interest rate is holding around 4.1%, and the dollar has been slipping lower. A falling dollar usually gives Bitcoin and other hard assets room to breathe, as long as nothing snaps in the plumbing underneath. Then there's the crypto leverage structure. Bitcoin has a ton of open futures bets stacked on top of it. Big money, big size, but the funding costs are flat. That combination means one thing. A big move is loading, and when the trigger hits, it won't be small. XRP is its own story. Long term, it's a serious rail. Banks, institutions, global payments, real usage. But short term, the flow of tokens back onto exchanges creates noise and timing headaches. It's powerful, but messy. A lion with a limp. Meanwhile, the AI and gaming world is waking up. Money is flowing into anything that sits at the intersection of AI agents, digital economies, and next-generation games. This isn't meme hype. This is early-stage infrastructure being built in real time. Traditional finance is quietly sliding into defensive mode. The safe stocks, utilities, consumer staples are getting attention again. When Wall Street hides in the boring stuff, it means they expect turbulence. Stablecoins are surging too. Huge waves of fresh liquidity moving onto networks like Tron, but not being deployed yet. That's cash in the room, waiting for someone to fire the starting gun. And finally, the Solana meme trenches are still glowing. Old zombies, new newborn tokens, huge swings. Not where you put serious money, but definitely where you can read the crowd's emotions. It's the sentiment thermostat of crypto. So that's the setup. Tight liquidity, a weak dollar, a coiled Bitcoin, a split personality XRP, AI heating up, suits hiding, stablecoin stacking, and memes screaming from the basement. This is not a calm market. This is a market holding its breath. And speaking of holding your breath, the biggest story of the week isn't even crypto. It's Apple finally admitting, without admitting, that they missed the first wave of AI. Let's get into it. And once you realize the whole market is holding its breath, You can finally see why the AI world feels like it's hyperventilating. Because while crypto is coiled and liquidity is tight, AI has spent the last 72 hours flipping tables. If you aren't watching the feeds, you think Silicon Valley was trying to speed run a revolution. Google came out of nowhere and turned Gemini into something dangerous. Not a chatbot, not a toy, but a worker. A digital intern that actually does your job. You tell it what you want done, and it goes off handling your emails, cleaning your docs, moving your data, updating your spreadsheets, running flows across apps you forgot existed. No code, no setup, just execution. That's the moment AI stops being a tool and becomes a team member. Right behind that, OpenAI pulled one of the boldest moves in years. They're testing a system where the model critiques itself after answering you, telling you whether it followed your instructions, where it guessed, and where it drifted. That's not transparency. That's OpenAI positioning itself as the trusted brain for enterprise. The one that will admit when it's wrong before you even catch it. Then they doubled down. They bought Neptune, one of the cleanest, sharpest debugging outfits in the AI world. That's not a press release acquisition. That's them locking down the internal tools needed to dissect, monitor, and optimize training runs for the monsters they're about to build. The labs that can see inside their models win the next era. Anthropic wasn't silent either. Their chief scientist came out and basically said, white-collar work as you know it won't make it to 2030. Not maybe, not possibly. He said AI will handle most desk jobs in the next 2 or 3 years, and by the end of the decade, we'll be deciding whether AI should train the next generation of AI without us. When the people building the rocket tell you it's already left the launch pad, believe them. And if that wasn't enough, Europe kicked off a fight with Meta for blocking competing AIs on WhatsApp. When governments start throwing elbows, you know the stakes aren't apps, they're power. So look at the board. Google unleashed AI workers. OpenAI built self-checking intelligence and bought the tools behind the curtain. Anthropic lit the warning flare. Regulators jumped into the fight. DeepSeek continues breaking records with open architecture. And into all of this chaos, Apple had 4 major executives walk out in 72 hours. No press tour, no explanations, just doors closing. So let's talk Apple, because just in case you didn't know, in the last 72 hours, they had their AI chief step down, their head of UI design leave for Meta, their policy chief step aside, and their top legal counsel walk. 4 hits in rapid fire. Bam, 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 bam. Now you're probably thinking, what does that even mean? Come on, Garage Gang, this isn't complicated. Big companies don't shed leadership like that unless the ground under them is cracking. That's not coincidence. That's culture breaking under pressure. Apple finally realized the world shifted and they were holding last decade's playbook. They were just late to AI. They were on the wrong highway entirely. For 10 years, Apple poured billions into Siri and on-device intelligence. They optimized the camera, the neural engine, the battery, the microphone. They perfected the physical device. But while they were polishing the shell, everyone else was building the brain. OpenAI built GPT. Google built Gemini. Meta built Llama. DeepSeek built a mixture of experts model that embarrassed the industry. Anthropic built frontier-scale safety systems. GPU clusters became the new oil rigs. Training runs became national power projects. Apple, meanwhile, built the best phone in the world with a very dumb assistant inside it. That's how a startup like DeepSeek, with a fraction of the resources, could walk in and outperform trillion-dollar giants. They weren't slowed down by perfection culture. They weren't suffocated by secrecy. They didn't wait for the product to be flawless. They built fast, iterated faster, and published openly. Open source is gasoline. Apple's culture is bottled water. Only one of those fuels frontier AI. So, when those four executives vanished in 72 hours, you weren't seeing chaos. You were seeing a transformation. This is Apple saying, our old plan is dead. Start the rebuild. And that rebuild is going to be violent. Mass GPU orders, new superclusters, a full AI architecture overhaul. The new cloud scale model to rival GPT and Gemini. A total rewrite of Siri, and the first truly AI native iPhone. A device that stops being an app launcher and becomes a personal operator that anticipates, decides, and acts. Apple doesn't panic out loud. They panic through silence, exits, and emergency partnerships, like renting Gemini to buy time while they tear out the old wiring. So when you see bam, 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 bam in 3 days, you don't ask, is something wrong? You say, this is the only way forward. Because the truth is simple. Apple fell behind because its culture was built on secrecy and perfection. And AI is built on openness and speed. Those two worlds don't mix. And Apple just learned that the hard way. Now they're about to attempt the biggest Hail Mary pivot in the company's modern history. The only question left is whether they can rebuild fast enough. And who gets run over when they do. Before we go any further, let's be crystal clear. None of this is financial advice. This is the trench, a place where we show the work, walk through the logic, and break down the flow using the right tools. Axiom for pattern hunting, and BullX for heat, volume, and wallet movement. We don't give signals. We tell the story of the battlefield. Now, let's talk about what XXX did tonight inside the Aria. He didn't show up like a king returning to his throne. He walked in with 30 soul, rent paid, responsibilities handled, and that was the reload. A clean stack and a clean mission. He slid into that quiet Aria lounge, the one nobody talks about, but everybody wishes they could get into. Dim lights, thick carpets, and the kind of silence that tells you someone is about to make a decision that matters. Laptop open, Axiom scanning patterns on one screen, BullX tracking liquidity and wallet flows on the other. The trench, glowing dead center. This is where the hunt starts. First targets? The legacy zombies. Popcat, Myro, Wen, Silly. The old Solana creatures that refuse to stay dead no matter how many times the market buries them. When these things twitch, it tells you one thing. Retail isn't asleep. But XXX doesn't survive on nostalgia. He shifts to the newborns. Rain, Computer, Equity, Grape Blue, Turtroll. Fresh liquidity, fast volume, sharp behavior. These aren't investments. They're thermometers. They tell you the temperature of the room. They show you how brave the crowd is feeling tonight. Axiom flags momentum. BullX confirms buyers. XXX takes the trades. Small, precise, surgical. In its strength, out before weakness even forms a sentence. 3 hours in Vegas, and the man works the trench like he's been doing it since before Solana even had memes. No emotion, no ego, just execution. And when he finally closes the laptop, the number looking back at him is not 30 soul anymore. It's 63 soul. Clean. Earned. Disciplined. Zero magic. All trench work. He stands up, nods to the room like he just paid the rent twice tonight, and walks out the same way he walked in. Quiet, controlled, unfazed. That's the trench. That's XXX. And that's why we always disclose. This isn't financial advice. This is storytelling at the edge of the chart. And normally, Lulu would end the night right here. Hopes tapping, snout buried in charts, ready to squeal her TA wisdom across the garage. But Lulu took the night off. We've got a new mini cow baby on the ranch, and that little thing will not shut up. It's been keeping Lulu awake all night. So the pig is sleeping in, resting up, and she'll be back tomorrow with fresh levels, fresh reads, and all the carrot-fueled confidence in the world. Until then, engines hot, safety off,